Okay, let's see if this works. Gonna do a real quick test. I apologize for a moment, may get a little bit of feedback because I don't know if this is working, because I'm not gonna be wearing headphones on this, so please bear with me. This did not work, so I'm gonna go ahead and delete that. Gonna refresh. Okay. This is working right now. Or is that a different one? Okay, let's see if this is working. Okay. Check, check. Looks like it's working. At least I think it is. At least I think it is. Okay, there we go. All right. All right. Hi. So I was going to do a complete recording of... I just recently watched Aliens, one of my favorite films from 1986, with my lady, and it's like comfort food for me. It's one of my favorite films of all time, and I was going to kind of do just an authentic, non-edited video. So I like doing edited, polished videos that have a script, but I'm trying to do something different this time. I'm trying to do something just, you know, off the cuff, as if you're having a conversation with me. Now, it's late at night. Most people are probably not watching this, so I'll just hopefully have this available for playback. But basically, I'm going to be talking about Jim Cameron's 1986 film Aliens, which is the sequel to the 1979 film Alien by Ridley Scott. I'm also doing this in the order that I saw them in. I actually saw Aliens before I saw Alien, and that's kind of why I'm doing it in this order. And I feel like a lot of people feel that Aliens is the last good Alien movie, depending on who you ask. So I'm gonna take a real sip real quick. Give me one sec. Okay, I'm also gonna play an Aliens game in the background. Hopefully it won't be too noisy. But yeah, so Aliens is a film that had to build upon the success of the first film. It was very popular, I mean, the first film was such an iconic, you know, post-2001, post-Star Wars sci-fi hit, that it just... they were going to make a sequel, then they weren't going to make a sequel, and then they decided to make one. And they got James Cameron to do it. Now, what I find interesting is I think that... let me check this real quick, make sure my audio is not too loud. I think that Aliens is, in the sense, a movie that really needs a lot of, and I'm just saying this in my opinion, I think Aliens really needs a lot of love and care. And when you watch Aliens, there's something about it, it's just, it hits a different kind of, it scratches a different itch, if you will. Because this was shot on Super 35 spherical lenses, shot on sound stages with Stan Winston doing creature effects, and it was something to see. When I first saw it, I was probably too young to be watching it, but it was what was on, and everybody kind of sat down. I sat down with a big family gathering and watched it, and it's a good roller coaster ride of a movie. It's a lot of fun. I'm just going to play an easy mission here because I want to be able to talk about the movie. I'm not joining a queue. I don't want fire team. I just want normal people. Yeah, sure. But what I would say is that if you look at Aliens and you think about it from the point of view of, in my experience, I had not seen the first film. The first film was probably way too scary and way too violent for me to watch. Even though you didn't see a lot of the violence was suggested. But to me, the first part of the movie does a really good job of kind of recapping the first film. And by recapping, I mean that it basically kind of goes over the beats. It's like, yeah, there's a chest burster. There was a struggle. And Ripley is basically Sleeping Beauty. She's awakened by a salvage team. And, I'm not going to go over the whole plot. And if you haven't seen it, definitely going to be spoilers in here. But it's a movie that's 40 some odd years old. So hopefully you've seen it by now. And if you haven't, you should see it before you listen to this. But they kind of go over the first beats of the movie pretty quickly. Sigourney is awakened by a salvage team. She wakes up in a hospital. She's groggy. She doesn't know what's going on. And she meets Carter Burke. And Burke basically says, yeah, you've been asleep for 57 years. And so basically everybody that she knew from the last time she was awake was dead anyways. But this time now, she is truly alone. Not just a woman out of crew members, but also a woman out of time. She's basically in a completely different time. And what that does is it sets up, the first movie as like something that happened in the past. This is the second act of a larger story, if you will. And Ripley is concerned because she doesn't know, she's like, I've been asleep for that long. What happened? She senses something's wrong, and then she feels something in her chest. And before you know it, she's convulsing and she's basically having a chest burst out of her body, which is what happened to her crewmate, John Hurt Kane, in the first film. And that's a horrible way to die. So she wakes up and then she realizes that, it was just a nightmare. But basically she has PTSD. She has PTSD from this. And now is, being questioned by the company. Why'd you blow up the ship? Everything that you said that happened is not true, blah, blah, blah. So long story short, nobody believes her. So she's completely alone and completely, on her back foot. The only thing that she has that she knows is the cat, Jones, from the first film. That's the only companion that she has in her life. And then they say that there's a colony down where she is, that the air is breathable now, blah, blah, blah. Long story short, they figure that she's full of crap and they're not going to deal with it. They're just like, you're going to be under psych eval, we don't trust you, She's basically, been disposed of, if you will. Well, now, she essentially is a woman out of time and basically has no place in the world. And not to be dark, but she may have wanted to kill herself. She went through such a horrible experience, and now she has to kind of, find a way to go on after everything that she knew is gone. And depending on which cut you watch, Jim Cameron had written a story called Mother that was adapted to the Aliens lore. And Ripley actually had a child that she left behind, and since she had been asleep for 57 years, her daughter grew up without her mom and unfortunately passed away before Ripley woke up. So she never got to know her daughter. So that's a really hard way to wake up and deal with things. So that becomes a subplot later, that Ripley has a missing daughter. So essentially, eventually Burke comes and says, hey, we've lost contact with the colony, and since you are the only person that maybe could give us some intel on what's going on and what we're dealing with, we'd like you to come along. And if you do, you'll get reinstated as a flight officer, blah, blah, blah. So she's like, no, I don't want to do it. There's no way I'd go back. It's horrible, you know. And you know that she's going to go back. And she does eventually, but only because she keeps having these horrible nightmares. Oh, excuse me. Sorry. So I'm trying not to go over the whole plot, but basically what Aliens does is it sets up Ripley from the first film. And even if you have not seen the first film, Sigourney Weaver is such a great actress, and the script is so well done that you don't need to see the first film. They recap it in like the first, 15 minutes of the movie, and it's not until Burke comes to visit the plot really starts going. And what is interesting is that if you look at the movie from the point of view of like, this is somebody who has PTSD, and she only had to deal with one. Now she's going back, and there's an entire colony that's just basically they've lost contact with, and she mentions it. And now you have a military escort that's going to help her. And they say, hey, don't worry, we've been trained to handle situations like this, if anybody or if anything comes after us, we'll be all right. And I'm sorry, I'm a little bit rambly here. I'm trying not to be, but I didn't know I was going to be playing a game while doing this. I was just going to be sitting down and talking earlier, but I don't want to stand around. And this is a big compromise, having to do this like this. I was just going to have a camera pointed and just talk to you guys. So my apologies for the loose nature of this. But she meets the Marines, and they're all, a cast of, cocky characters. They've been on these kind of missions before, and they're just like, okay, this is great. How can we, how can we get this over with? We don't want to be here. We want to just party, They just want to be, wild and rowdy Marines. And in the first film, there was an android character that was evil. And so when it is revealed that there's an android character accompanying this mission, Ripley automatically does not trust him. She's completely standoffish from this android character. And so what really sells the movie for me is just how well it's crafted, the production design, the actors, the cast. Everybody's really good on it. And you believe wholeheartedly that Ripley has been through this ordeal, because Sigourney Weaver is a fantastic actress, and she's returning to a role that she had already played before. Now, it's been a little bit of time, obviously, and she's aged a bit, and she has, a haircut, blah, blah, blah. But she goes down, and they get there, and it's basically like a haunted house. They get to the colony, there's nobody there. There's signs of like a struggle, but nobody's really answering them whenever they are looking for people. And they finally run into this little girl who just happens to be about the same age as Ripley's daughter that she left behind. So her maternal instincts kick in, and she's very protective of this girl, and she's the only one who can reach this little girl and talk to her, and her name is Newt. Now, in the director's cut, or the extended cut or whatever, you see Newt before the whole Marines arrive and everything, and she has a brother, her parents go out on an expedition, and father gets a face hugger to the face, and Newt's very high-pitched scream is introduced at that point. And again, I love both cuts of the movie. I think the theatrical cut is actually very good. It moves the movie along. It keeps a strong pace. It basically, all they do is they cut out some of Ripley's character moments about being a mother who lost a daughter, kind of thing, you know. And it cuts out a couple other scenes too. But essentially, she now is a mother figure for this orphan. This kid's an orphan now, and she has no way to get really any good information from the kid, because the kid is, you know, having her own PTSD. She lost her entire family, and she's been hiding, you know, from these aliens that are basically, you know, they're Terminators. They are hyper aggressive and will cocoon you if they catch you. It's a horrible way to die. So they come across personal data transmitters, and eventually they discover, okay, the colonists are all in this one area. And, you know, to add a little bit of extra challenge to the movie, the Marines, with all their guns and everything, can't use them because Ripley points out that they're too close to the cooling, or the reactor or something. Basically, if the Marines fire their weapons too close to the reactors or whatever, they're going to blow the whole place up, because it's basically a nuclear bomb as a factory. It uses nuclear power. If you're a fan of Helldivers 2 and Arc Raiders, I think you'd really enjoy Aliens, because there's a lot of 80s kind of sci-fi punk, especially in Arc Raiders. But there's a lot of that vibe and tech in the Aliens franchise, if you will. So basically, Ripley is now dealing with taking care of a kid, and then they come across these colonists, and before you know it, they are now weaponless, because they can't use their guns. They can only use flames and shotguns. But there's one loose cannon kind of in the group, Vasquez, played wonderfully by Jeanette, I think it's Jeanette Goldstein, and she basically holds on to her guns because something tells her that she's going to need it. And although it was dangerous, she went against orders, she inadvertently saves a few of the team members by being a little bit of a against the grain kind of Marine. So what the movie does really well is it sets up these characters. They're outnumbered, then they get ambushed when they find a colonist that is basically having the chest bursting thing happening to them, and they are attacked, and before you know it, some of them are already dead. Like, they die within 15 minutes of going out onto the mission. And the few remaining survivors are like, okay, what are we going to do? How are we going to do this? And Burke, played by Paul Reiser, is saying, we can't blow up the place. We've got to save these aliens because we want them to be used for the bioweapons and blah, blah, blah. So, and what I think is fantastic about this is that it's a really good script. It's really, really well done. And it makes it, to me, it makes it all the more challenging that they have all these things that they cannot do. Like, they can't really escape, because now their escape route is taken away by a rogue alien that takes out the dropship. Sorry, I lost my train of thought. Having a hard time here. I really wasn't going to be playing a game doing this. So what I will say is that this movie does a really good job of setting up the characters, setting up the stakes, and it's a good popcorn munching film. It really, really makes you get invested in the characters, and everybody is really, really good. Everybody is, you know, in my opinion, quite capable in their roles. If you had not seen the first film, you could still get a lot out of this one and still be completely entertained, because it's very believable. The sci-fi world is set up very well, and the tech is built on real-world tech. For example, the gun that I'm using here is, this guy's wearing a Steadicam harness and holding a big LMG, I believe, and that's the smart gun. And the prop department basically used a Steadicam rig for the soldiers to hold the guns with, like this, which is really cool. So the reason why Aliens works is because it followed up a very, very popular film and improved upon its lore, improved upon its biology and life cycles of the aliens. In the first film, you saw a big cargo crate full of eggs, and James Cameron's like, well, what laid these eggs? And before you know it, there is a queen. So they become more like, instead of just, you know, drones like the big chap from the first film, they are basically bugs, kind of like Starship Troopers. They're very, very deadly. My smart gun here is doing a good job on these guys too. But you could really say that Aliens works because the expectations were high, but James Cameron, in his very, you know, aggressive and well thought out way, made a fantastic film against all the odds. And he was so successful that it basically set his career on fire in a good way. Because after doing The Terminator, which is a fantastic film as well, a horror slasher film with the sci-fi edge, Aliens is the kind of movie that everybody can get behind, and, you know, it's a roller coaster ride. There's a few things that kind of, you know, are kind of plot convenience, but you let it slide because it's so well executed. I would say that Aliens is probably one of the films that inspired me to be a filmmaker. I watch it kind of like I watch Die Hard and Blade Runner and The Terminator. I watch all those older movies as like a comfort food, because, you know, they really had to make them with analog tech. Shot it on film, you know, practical effects, men in suits, reverse photography, you know, just all kinds of good stuff that makes that movie work. And the sound design, everything about that movie just works. It's a believable, visceral world. And it's a shame that, and I don't want to go too far into it, but it's a shame that Alien 3 was such a disappointment, because whenever Alien 3 came out, or whenever the advertisements for Alien 3 were mentioned, I mean, it was, the anticipation for that film was enormous, because Aliens was such a hit, such a wild ride, that people were expecting, how are they going to top that? And it is unfortunate the direction they took that film. I still think it's a good movie, but it was not a good Aliens movie, if that makes sense. If it was a horror film by itself that didn't involve the alien, it'd be different. But I understand that, you know, the studios made silly decisions and blah blah blah. But they killed off Hicks and Newt and basically Bishop. They just took everything about that was great about the second film and pooped on it, and it sucked for a lot of people. They were completely disappointed. It was a very, very nihilistic and not fun movie for people who enjoyed the sequel to Alien. Now, the director director David Fincher went on to do good things later, but he had a hard time recovering after that failure. So I'd say if I was putting it on a rating scale, Aliens would get an 11 out of 10. It's one of my favorite movies of all time. It's a good romping, stomping action adventure. It's got horror, it's got action, it's got comedy, it's got really, really, really good drama, and it's even got, you know, some good old-fashioned 80s cheese in it as well. I don't think it could be topped. And now this is kind of something that, you know, going away from that, long story short, I enjoy the film. Would I say that, well, I guess I've been having a discussion with a few friends of mine. They always give me crap because they're just like, oh, you don't like movies that are, you know, past a certain year or anything. And they're basically referring to the new Disney era of Aliens. And here's the thing. If other people enjoy it, that's great. If the new, you know, Alien movies that are owned by Disney, which owns all the Fox properties now, if people get into these movies, these older movies, because of that, great. Then they'll be able to see where it all started. But Aliens is a hard movie to top. Nobody can really top it, and they've tried for years. Other movies have tried to replicate the success of that film. I mean, that's why they made Alien 3, and they did it so poorly, because they weren't thinking about a good story. They were thinking about making money, and it's sad, but it's the truth. I need to get some ammo here. So for example, this is something I was going to do separately, but I'm going to go ahead and mention it now. I don't think I can really get into the newer Alien projects, mainly because I was hyped about, for example, Prometheus. I was so excited for Prometheus, and although it had a great cast, great effects, fantastic production design, and one of my favorite directors, Ridley did my favorite film of all time, Blade Runner. I was super stoked about it, and it was a lot of style and questionable substance. It just tried to do too much. So in a way, Aliens is the last good Alien film. Does that mean that everything that comes out after it is inferior? Not necessarily, but it is diluted by time and, you know, the parodies and all that. You know, think about Spaceballs. I mean, you know, Aliens cannot be topped. It is a classic now. So what I saw I saw Alien Romulus. It just didn't work for me. The new, just a new attitude with, you know, showing the xenomorph in good daylight. They did it in Prometheus as well. Or, I'm sorry, Alien Covenant. They did that. Just, they're not scary anymore. And maybe I've seen too many movies, that's part of it. But Aliens was the last time that, to me, they were scary. They were a threat. It was good. You know, it was good that the way they presented them, and they only showed you little bits In fact, some of the times where the aliens are being killed, they've actually repeated some photography because, they can only afford to show an alien blowing up with an acid explosion a few times. So with quick cuts, they reuse some of those effects and, flop the shots and everything to make it work. I shouldn't have walked through that. So the new Alien lore and the new Alien that's under the Disney banner, I don't hate it, but I'm just not interested in it because it's hard to capture that magic once again. It really is. You can't catch lightning in a bottle again. And it'll be some time. Maybe in 20 years when Aliens is 60 some odd years old and people go back and watch it, they'll rediscover it maybe. But I hope that people would go back and try and watch it now because it's really good. It holds up very well. It doesn't disappoint. I'll put it this way. I took a friend to go see it, and he had never seen it. I don't know how he missed it. He's a younger guy, younger than me. And I said, "You've never seen Aliens?" He's like, "No." I was like, "Dude, it's playing at this theater. We should go see it." And we did, and he was blown away. He just really, really, really enjoyed it. And we had good sound. We had good picture. It was fantastic. We had a great time, and he loved it. And the movie, even to this day, still holds up. When I watch it with my gal, she doesn't know the movie backwards and forwards like I do. So I know when all the jump scares and all the, scary moments are going to happen and the loud score hits are going to happen. And she still gets scared by it. She still gets into it. And, it's fun to watch scary movies with her. But it holds up so well. So yeah, that's pretty much all I've got to say. I know I've been kind of rambling, and I apologize for that. Like I said, I was going to do this on a stream where I just kind of sit down and I had some notes and everything set aside to talk about Aliens, and I couldn't get my streaming software to work, so I did the second best option, which was to play a game based on Aliens and kind of give you guys a review as I'm playing it. This game is not bad, by the way. It's kind of fun. But it's a movie that inspires people to this day, and I feel like if you want to learn about filmmaking, if you want to learn about the craft, and what makes a really good film, Aliens holds up very well. And I would highly recommend that you check it out if you can, because it doesn't disappoint. It's really good. So I'm gonna finish off these bad guys here and put this mine up here. I think if you have the opportunity to study it from a filmmaking standpoint, you'll learn a lot. There's old school camera tricks that were used. For example, the face hugger was basically a wind-up toy that the special effects, makeup effects department made. And all the creatures were creatures in suits, gymnasts, stuntmen. The Queen was a very, very large marionette in a way, with two stuntmen inside to work the arms and stuff, and they had a lot of wires and stuff hooked up to it. That achievement basically got Stan Winston the job to make the T-Rex in Jurassic Park. So it went on. It's a movie that made a lot of other things happen. If there's anything that doesn't work about the movie, I think it's mostly due to well, no, it kind of works. It works very well. Okay, I will say one critique that I have, and it's minor, it's just me nitpicking a little bit, is you see the Queen rip Bishop, an android, in half. You know, like, rips him in half like a rag doll, just completely shreds him. So the Queen has an amazing amount of strength. Well, the end of the film, when Ripley is facing off against the Queen in the power loader, basically a forklift, a walking forklift that she, you know, enhances her strength with, and gets in a one-on-one fight with the Queen. A beautiful set piece. That's a wonderful, wonderful set piece. She's, you know, going toe-to-toe with this monster, and it's fun. It's a lot of fun to watch, and it's a good battle. And it's a very, very fast mixture of miniatures with full-size puppets and Sigourney and close-ups. You know, it's just cut very well. The edit on the movie is fantastic, even the extended cut. So some critiques. I don't really like the sentry gun, the turret sequence. I can totally see why they cut it, because it really slowed the movie down a lot, and you don't really get to see a lot of aliens. You just, basically, the Marines are telling you what's happening, you know, like, we've got these guns, we're gonna shoot the aliens, but you can't see what's happening. You just, you know, you see the ammo counters going down, so it's kind of a boring scene in a way. So I could totally see why they cut it. I think if I was going to cut anything from the film, even on the extended version, that would be it, because it just doesn't really help the movie at all. It just kind of pads out the runtime a little bit. But that being said, if you look at that, and you look at the very end where the Queen is holding on to Ripley's boot, and the airlock is opened, and basically all the oxygen is getting sucked out of the enclosure there. That means all the air is being exhaled from Ripley and Newt. Bishop's fine. And she's basically holding on with one arm as hard as she can, but she's holding on with one arm with all that force, and a 400 or 500 pound monster holding on to her boot. You know, you got to suspend your disbelief. I get it. It's the drama, but it just, to me, it's like she would have ripped Ripley's leg off or hyperextended her arm, and, you know, she would have got sucked into space with the Queen. But at that point in the movie, you're so invested, you want her to win. I get it. But that part always kind of threw me off, because I was like, it's like, wow, that's a lot of force, you know, like. So I don't know. It doesn't exactly work for me. But again, it was the best way to get rid of the Queen, because the Queen basically can't be killed unless you burn her or blow her up. And, you know, so it was the let's open the airlock and kick her out kind of thing. So I get it. Sigourney would have had to have got into a space suit and put Newt in a space suit and had Bishop hold Newt and then kick the Queen out into space. You know, maybe even fight her outside on the spaceship. That would have been a little too expensive to pull off. So, yeah, that's the only thing that doesn't really work for me, was the way the Queen goes out, because Ripley would have totally died, I think, if it was realistic. But other than that, and the sentry gun scene, the extended cut is great. It's a lot of fun to watch. It's a little bit, gives Ripley a little bit more weight as a character. But it totally works without that too. If you just see the theatrical cut, all the stuff about the missing daughter is, gone. It doesn't really make a difference. Ripley still has a maternal instinct towards Newt, and it works for the film. So, yeah, so that's pretty much all I've got to say. I'm going to go ahead and shut this down. Again, this was kind of a rambling review of the movie. I think what I might start doing is try and do some podcasts. Maybe try to have a guest on with me so we can discuss the film and kind of rap back and forth about it. I'm pretty sure nobody jumped on a chat because I didn't get any notifications. But I will say Aliens is a good film, and if you're a filmmaker or you're studying, I would definitely check it out. There's plenty of behind-the-scenes stuff on it. There's lots of other people that have reviewed the film and gone into great detail about behind the scenes. There was another actor, actually, that was cast and shot on film playing Hicks. That was James Remar. James Remar was in the Warriors and Dexter. He's been in a lot of things. But at the time, James Remar had a problem, and he was kicked off the set, fired, basically. And there's still a shot of him that exists in the film, but it's from the back, so you can't tell it's not Hicks. And Michael Biehn came in and filled in the role because he had worked with Jim Cameron before. So, but yeah, there's a ton of behind-the-scenes stuff in there. Some of the lore and everything that goes along with making the movie and, the drama, and Ripley, Sigourney Weaver got paid a lot of money for that. I think she got a cool $1 million for that one, I believe. I could be wrong, but maybe she did. And she was nominated for an Oscar, which was pretty rare because the Academy usually doesn't recognize science fiction films too much. At least at that time, they didn't seem to, for the most part. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this. Let me know in the comments if you have any questions or you want to talk about it, or maybe give me a suggestion for another movie to watch and then review. I had just watched Aliens. I started it last night, but it was really late, so I was like, I'm going to pause it here because I know what happens. And then I watched the rest of it tonight with my girl, and we had a good time. So anyways, that's all. Hope you guys are having a good 2026, and take care. Bye-bye.